Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Echo's Reloading Chamber. AR and our special guest, Alabama Reloading.
Hey,
Reloader. I'm sorry, man. My blood sugar has dropped out like right before the show started. That's what those alerts you heard. I'm diabetic. Yeah, so I've been trying to, it just makes my brain go to kind of slow down a little bit when my blood sugar drops low. AR, why don't you welcome Alabama to the show and get our side chat read off. And I just wanted to welcome everyone to the show. Thanks everybody in the side chat for coming in tonight, and it's going to be a great show.
Yeah, great meeting, Alabama. I watch your videos for a while. It's an honor to have you on.
I appreciate it. I really do. When Echo reached out, and sent me the email, or he commented on one of my videos and was asking for my email, and then he sent me the, hey, we'd like to have you on and do an interview. I was honored just to even have that, have the invitation. So I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're glad to have you. Let's call out a few of the people in the side chat, then we'll get to the interview. Let's see. Vanessa's here. Good to see you, Vanessa. Jake Humbre.
Yeah, Jake Hembry. Yep.
Hembry. Okay, got it. Gun Loving Grandpa called. Jerry Parker. Andy 79Z28's here. Mac Man Reloaded. Good to see you, Mac. LB Lead Bullet Junkie. Michael Hurtnick. Let's see who else. Jake G23. MK Joe. Good to see you. That's about it for now.
And I
Take
did.
It away, Echo.
And so I did, Echo, I did post the post on YouTube, right, where you can share. So I did share that earlier, just kind of letting folks know, hey, by the way, come tune in if you get a chance.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you, sir. Yeah, and G23's in the side chat too. I don't know if you said him, but
G23, hey, what's up, brother?
Yeah. Basically, so Alabama, obviously you live in Alabama.
Yes.
Okay. I'm in Florida and AR is in Georgia. So, and AR has hunted and grew up hunting, and I grew up hunting, mostly with shotguns though. We didn't, because in Florida, if you get 100-yard shot, that's like a quarter-mile shot because it's number 2 canopy, like jungle. It's, when you're walking through the woods, you're walking through briars and brush and everything, grabbing your shotgun. And it's just then all of a sudden you're in a little clearing and there'll be a little patch of sunlight coming through with a little bit of some type of clover growing. And you'll have your face to face with a deer, and you've got literally a millisecond to bring that shotgun up and pop him.
Oh yeah, that's good stuff.
So, what type of reloading do you do?
So that's a good question. So I am primarily focused on, I guess, more of a hunting application, I would say. So that's where my reload. I don't reload handgun ammunition at all. Don't reload anything pistol related. I have before in the past. I've reloaded some 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum. I've reloaded some 9mm, some 380, some 357 Magnum. But as far as trying to do that volume wise, no. I have a single stage press. It's a Redding T7 turret press, and so I kind of gave up on handgun reloading a long time ago. Actually, when I first got started, and quickly realized trying to load 9mm on a single stage press, I was like, I'll just go buy it right at the time. Yeah. Now it might be a little bit different, but at the time it was so much more readily available and easier just to go buy it and be done with it. So my reloading is mostly focused on working up hunting loads, either for myself or for a friend or a family member or something along those lines. So it's really geared toward, I guess, terminal performance, right, on game. That's right. Bullet construction. I'm more concerned about what type of bullet I'm going to be using rather than the group size per se. Obviously, I want to, be as accurate as possible with a load that I work up. But for the hunting and shooting that we do in North Alabama, it's similar to what you're talking about. If you're in the woods and you get a 100-yard shot, that's a long shot, right? So a lot of what we do, especially the way we hunt, is try to get as close as we can to where we think the deer are going to be. And then obviously that puts you, because I bow hunt as well. So if I'm trying to do that for bow hunting, I'm taking that same mentality into gun hunting. And so all of my shots are relatively close. So that's really the reloading. That's sort of the mindset that I have when I'm going.
So when the deer is standing on an X for you, that's at like 35 yards, 40 yards. That would be a perfect shot for you with your bow or your rifle.
Well, with my bow, I'm not super confident with my bow.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's more, I'd like for the shot to be about 25 or in with my bow. I've got a crossbow also. I'll stretch it out with crossbow maybe to 40. I feel a lot more comfortable with it out to 40, but compound bow, I'm about 25 and in.
Okay.
Because it just, I'll just tell you, when that 8-point stepped out, a couple of years ago, I was hunting in Tennessee and 8-point stepped out and he was at like 35, 40 yards. I was shaking so bad. There's no way the arrow wasn't even going to be close. Right. So yeah.
You got to be worried about shooting another hunter in a tree because you might just let go like this. Yeah. Yep. I know that shake. You think that you're sitting there and you haven't had a cup of coffee or nothing, and that morning cold is hitting your feet, and you're in that deer stand, and then you see that deer and it's there, and all of a sudden the shake from hell, if it's like you're an 80-year-old man on 2 cups of coffee, you're like sitting there. Yeah, it comes out of nowhere. And you don't know what's going on. You're just trying to calm yourself down and just try to think clearly. Bring it up, shoulder it, lean into it. Right. Put your finger on the trigger, pop the safety off, and slowly acquire a sight picture, and then squeeze and let it surprise you when it goes off. Yeah. And you're doing all this, and you're hoping that, and you draw that shot, and boom, and then you're just hoping that everything you did in the reloading room went as it was supposed to go. And the funny thing is, you should bring up that you reload for hunting and don't do a lot of pistol ammunition, because I don't do a lot of pistol ammunition either, and have just recently kind of got into it. Have been a precision rifle reloader ever since I got started. And basically, but the cool thing about it is I can't hunt anymore because of I have diabetes and I've lost a lot of my vision, but in my ability to go out and walk in the woods long distances and stuff like that. So I reload for some friends of mine who still hunt. So I'm able to transform that precision hand loading over into hunting ammunition. So now I'm getting to test loads with different bullets on actual live targets and seeing what is the most humane way for me to load ammunition to take game. And I've tried a lot of different bullets because, like I said, I grew up shooting shotguns, and it was double odd buck or slugs, and that was your choice. Right. With rifle ammunition, there's a boatload of bullets, and I shoot the match bullets, which are particularly thin-skinned and do not make very good hunting ammunition. They just come apart. Right. And so it was a kind of a little bit of a thing where I was going through, try a bullet, load it, send it with one hunter, try a different bullet with another hunter, and then work it down until we finally found something that was competitively putting animals down within 25 yards. Right. So they wouldn't have to chase them.
That's one of the things that I really enjoy about it too. It's just the way my mind works, and very process oriented. I guess in that way, once I got into reloading, and my brother is the one that actually got me into it. So I have him to thank for all of the money that I have spent over the years of pouring, cash into this hobby. It's an expensive hobby, but it's one of those where that's exactly what I enjoy about the hunting side of it, is testing different bullets, not only on, paper targets and seeing how well they shoot or how well they group out of a hunting rifle or whatever, but then also once they get into the field, how do they perform? And so for me, it's one of those where that's where I guess way different than someone who's going to go shoot competitively at a match or something like that, where they're going to work up a very specific load, that's tuned to their rifle, and they're going to load up a bunch of them, right? They're going to load up hundreds and hundreds of that same round and go perform and shoot throughout a season or whatever they need to do through the life of the barrel. Well, for me, it's almost like I'm constantly in test mode, right? Because I'm only gonna work in maybe batches of 50 or maybe smaller than that when I'm working on brass prep or something like that, because I want to go test a certain combination, and then I want to come back and make adjustments to it or whatever I need to do. Or I want to test a certain bullet, and then I find a load that performs decent enough on paper. Okay, well, how does that perform in the field? So that's kind of something that I'm, I guess, more in line with than anything else when it comes to reloading. Just like the elk load that I worked up. If you go back and watch some of my more recent videos on the channel, I've got a buddy, Richard, that I work with. He reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm going to go on a elk hunt in New Mexico coming up in October." He's actually, I think he just got back from that hunt. And this was back, I believe, in the spring. And he was like, "Hey, can you work up a elk load for my 30-06?" And I was like, "Yes, I hate that round. I'm not a fan of the 30-06. It's a solid performer, but whatever." So I was like, "But yeah, most definitely, if that's what you want to take into the field with you, I'll be more than happy to work up a load." So going into that and chasing an animal that's that large, I knew right off the bat I want either a bonded bullet, something like a Spirit Dot or a Nosler AccuBond, or I want a solid copper like a Barnes, triple shock, which is what I ended up going with, a TTSX, the 168 grain, and was able to get it to shoot, sub MOA. We were at about 0.8, right, 0.8 inches on at 100 yards. So it was grouping sufficiently enough, right, to get the job done. And then even out to 300 yards, it was still performing maybe around 4 inches, something like that, I think was the group at 300 yards, somewhere in that range, which that was the range he was looking to shoot, to kill a elk was out to, I think, 400, maybe 300, something like that. And so I chose that bullet based on, I want something high weight retention that's going to penetrate, it's going to expand, penetrate, no matter the shot angle. Right. If it's a shot where the elk is quartering towards him, yeah, I want that bullet to be able to perform no matter what. And just like you had talked about, when you're shooting match style bullets, even though they may be marketed towards the hunting community, they may be labeled a hunting bullet, but it's more of a match style thin jacket bullet. For elk, just, in my opinion, that's not going to get the job done. And so, what's really cool though is Richard hit me up, and I actually posted the picture on my little YouTube community, whatever that tab is. I don't know. It's where you can create a post. I went and posted the picture. It's also on my Instagram, and I shared on my Instagram. I believe I also shared a text message, sort of a screenshot of the text messages that we sent back and forth. And he was just so thrilled with the load that I worked up, because he dropped a massive bull elk with it at 125 yards. It was according to him, the elk was quartering towards him at an extreme angle. And I mean, that 168 grain punched all the way through. So he said he was impressed with the performance, and the guides that he was with that took him on the hunt, they were impressed with the performance. Right. So when you're going down that road and looking at hunting animals that large, you really got to pay attention to your bullet construction. So it's critical.
Yeah, that's the same thing I do. Is I'm looking for something that's going to punch through shoulder, heart, lungs, and it's going to exit the body of the animal. with at least 90% of its weight retained. That way you get a good blood trail, both entering the animal and exiting.
Yep. Oh yeah, that's critical. That's why I'm a big fan of spear gold dots, right? For deer, for deer sized game, and even, for deer, it's not necessarily as I won't say it's as critical, in my opinion, to have something like a Barnes that'll punch completely through. I do like a pass through 100%. I agree with you there. If I can get a pass through, then I'm a fan of that. But for sure, anything above, deer size game, I'm probably going with a Barnes. I'm going with something solid copper, or maybe a spear gold dot. For deer, that's one of the loads that I have worked up for my 6.5 Creedmoor is 140 grain spear gold dot. So, and I've got that sitting on top of 42 grains of H40 350. So it's a pretty solid performer, well under an inch group at, 100 yards. So it's going to get everything done that I need it to.
Yeah. At what ranges usually are you taking whitetails where you live?
So let's see, the longest shot. So, because I got back into hunting, I was out of it for a while, and then got back in. It was probably around 2015, I want to say, somewhere in that range, 2014, 2015, somewhere in that range. I got back into it pretty heavy. And the furthest shot I've taken since that time frame, since about 2014, was 185 yards. But I was in a cutover, and so they had come in and basically clear cut the side of a ridge, and I was sitting on one side, and the deer was on the other side, and it was about 185 yard shot. But that's the furthest shot. Everything other than that, after that one, the furthest has probably been about 120. So outside of that, everything's been 100 and in, if I shoot it with a rifle. So it's just, it's one of those deals where, certain spots, for gun hunting, I'm going to have about 100 yard shot, but outside of that, everything typically try to get a lot closer than that. So,
yeah, a lot of the guys that I load for, they hunt on property that overlooks a farmer's fields. Right. So it's the open shot, so that you might get a 250, 300 yard shot out of them. I've been using a lot of the Hornady 165 grain interlock, soft point, boat tail, and just having some really good luck with it. The bullet seems to really stay together. I'm getting pass through even on a quarter angle.
Right.
So I'm happy with the performance, but I'm also very familiar with the Barnes TTSX, the tipped TSX bullet, solid copper. I shoot those in 458, and I love those too for hogs and stuff like that. I reload a lot of those down here for hog hunters.
Yeah, shoot a hog.
You never have?
No, I want to.
Yeah, you need to go get some bacon.
Well, and I'll tell you one thing about killing hogs. Me and my brother and my dad, we went on a hog hunt last year, probably around August of 2020, somewhere in that range, July or August. And I had never killed a hog before, and me and my dad both, we were fortunate enough to be able to kill one. So we had two. We brought them back, and we started to gut them and all of that. And man, it's night and day different than a deer. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, it is. Those animals are tough. There's not a lot of meat on them. It's just a ton of fat, the layer of fat that, and that's really why you'll see a lot of people that try to go for a headshot or something like that that's going to drop them instantly. Because once you shoot them, if you just go for the vitals, the fat, I mean, it's just extremely thick on the pig. And so once that pig starts running, you might not get a good blood trail because of just how that fat's going to kind of, I guess, cover up, right, that wound or whatever. And so you go for a headshot, and you should be good to go. Hopefully drop them right there, and you won't have to chase them down. That's another thing. You shoot one, and then you chase it in the woods, and it's still standing and can possibly charge if it needs to or wants to. That happened to us also. We were tracking one that my dad had shot. And so we were going off in the woods looking for it. And, you definitely don't want to come up on one when they're injured. That's not a fun situation to be in.
Yeah,
I've heard
that's
that.
not. Yeah, no, those animals are, and they're smart. That's what most people don't understand is, you go out and you hunt them. And back when I hunted, still back in the late '90s, you go out at dusk and you start hunting these things at night, and they know where you are, and they'll move around, and they'll come in, and when you fire, they'll go. And then like an hour later you'll see the same pack, and they are just down to, if you got to make sure you are downwind from them walking up on them, because they do not mess around. They catch any kind of smell of you, it's like poof, gone in a matter of just a second or two.
They're extremely smart. They really are. And they're real tasty too, though. And that's the that's what's really nice about them. The two we killed, we had them processed. We gutted them and brought them back with us and had them processed. And so it was, man, really good eating. But yeah, it's a lot of fun to hunt them. And that's one of the things too. There's some, like I was telling you before we started, over in Bankhead National Forest, there seems to be, the population over there seems to be increasing, I guess, at a rapid rate. We saw some sign when we went out there bow hunting back on the 2nd, saw some sign. Me and my brother came across some sign down there. So I'd like to get over there and maybe shoot another one or two of those. So that'd be nice.
You see some rooting.
We found a wallow too where they had.
The cooling down.
Yep. Oh yeah, and he's got them on game camera too. He's got them.
Oh, he's got you guys should be set.
Yeah, so he's got pictures of them coming through. So hopefully get out there. Maybe either way, deer or hog. I'm good with either one. I mean, I'll take either. So
yeah,
love these hunting topics.
Oh yeah, tonight, because Alabama is a hunter and that's what he likes to do. That's what we were going to gear this around. What I like to do is come across hogs at nighttime. Hunting hogs at night is like a whole other thing. It's been years since I've done. Yeah, it is, because then you're on their land, because they can smell, they can see at night, they can hear. And they are intelligent. They're supposed to be more intelligent than a dog. And, dogs, I've known some very smart dogs. So it's kind of, when you think about it that way, it's kind of scary. It's like, am I hunting him or are they hunting me?
Yeah, that was the thing. The hunt we went on, it was actually our cousins or whatever. They've got some property down in kind of not necessarily South Alabama, but more central west, somewhere in that range, Alabama, and went over there. And it is just, we went hunting at night, and like you said, that was the first time I'd ever done it, and it is just an absolutely different world altogether. It's very unique, very different. When you're sitting there looking through a thermal optic and you're scanning a green field, and all of a sudden, I mean, the thing just lights up white because there's so many hogs out there, and you're just like, holy smokes! I mean, you're trying to figure out, put a game plan together. Okay, we're going to try to get as close as we can to your point and not spook them. And then, okay, which one are we going to shoot and all that? Because the moment you pull a trigger, I mean, they're gone, right? And so you do that, and then jump on the golf cart, the little hunting buggy or whatever, and we're taking off through the field to go recover the one we shot. And then you realize the damage that they cause, because you're dropping down, 2 feet down into the ground because they just destroyed, a patch of the green field, and just you almost tear the wheels off the thing, because it's like, man alive, the amount of damage that they can do in a short amount of time, it's pretty incredible. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like watching a D6 dozer. I mean, exactly. Literally, and the farmers, especially the ones that have cattle, they can't stand them, because wherever they will dig up a waller and it'll collect water, and basically the cattle will go walking through it, and they'll have little rut areas, and they'll break their legs in those little ruts and stuff, and they're causing thousands of dollars worth of damage. And then with the farmers, they're doing the same thing in their fields. They're eating their crops and tearing them up, and they just want them gone.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing too, just trying to control that population. It's almost, not necessarily a catch-22, but there are both sides of the coin where you've got people who want to hunt them for more of a sport, right, appeal. So you want to be able to go out, hunt them at night and all that. But when you're a landowner and you're actually trying to manage and get rid of them and eradicate them, really what you need to be doing is trapping them, right? That's if you want to get rid of them, because if you're going to go out and you're going to shoot a couple every night or shoot them when you see them, you're never going to get rid of the problem, and they're just going to continue to multiply because they do so quickly. So if you're actually trying to eradicate them, you really have to get like those enclosure traps and just trap as many as you can at one time and go about it that way. So,
yeah, even when they, are using helicopters and shoot, like in Texas and here in Florida, they do helicopter shooting where they shoot the hogs from it, and they'll lay down 300 or 400 in an afternoon. Right. You know, flying over a lot of land. And but the problem is they shot 300 or 400. There was probably 400 or 500 more that they missed.
Oh,
and because they hear gunfire, and they're at the other side of the property in a matter of 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the trapping is really the way to do it, even though shooting them is a hell of a lot funner.
It is. It's a lot more fun. I will give you that. It is a lot more fun. And it's such a different world when you're able to hunt at night. That's what's really neat, or what's really cool about what Alabama did this year. They opened up and created a special season for hog hunting and coyote hunting at night. So they, you were always able to hunt those animals, but now they've opened it up to where you can hunt them at night using thermals and all of that fun stuff. Whereas before it would have to be, you'd have to have a nuisance permit and all this stuff. And, so it was a different.
They did that this year?
Yeah, this year they put it in place back, I think in the summertime is when they put it in place. But the way our seasons run, they go into effect like September 1st through the end of the next August, right? That's when the season actually starts. But they put this special hog and coyote season, night season, they put it in place like back in the summer. So that way people could go ahead and buy the license, right? That way you could go ahead and hunt them right then, but then you'd have to renew your license September 1st of this year.
Right,
so
right.
It was just a really shortened, season to begin with, but now it's just like normal. So you just go renew your license and you're able to hunt them, throughout the next year. So it's pretty neat. I'm glad they finally got on board. I think they saw, like you're talking about, Texas, Florida, different states around us that already have, those things in place, those seasons or the ability to hunt them at night. I think we finally caught on and was like, hey, this is kind of a big business also. Like we need to jump on board with this. So.
Yes, plus tourism. The amount of tourism that brings hunters into the area to hunt pig that are from the northern states where the little varmints haven't worked their way up there yet because of the temperature. They come down, they bring, and hunters spend a lot of money when they come. They got hotels, you got food, you've got drink, you got ammunition. Any type of, every time I've gone hunting anywhere, I've always ended up coming home with an extra rifle. So I'm always, or something, in that price range, a scope, something I've bought at a local gun shop. While, because one of my buddies would be like, oh, you got to go to this gun shop. You're going to freak out when you see it. So we'll go to one and we'll be, oh, this is awesome. And then you'll find something on a really good deal and you'll be like, oh, I'm going to go home with this. This is coming home with me.
Like, oh, man, I got to buy it. It's such a good deal.
Exactly.
I stay in the woods, guys.
Yeah, he stays in the woods.
Hotels.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way to do it too, though. I mean, if you want to go, I've got a buddy right now who is out in Wyoming hunting pronghorn. So he's out there. So, that's pretty cool. But I believe they're camping, like what you're talking about, AR. I think they're camping in tents, I believe. and just hanging out and hunting for 3 days. It took them 2 days to get out there. They're going to hunt for 3 days, turn around, come back, 2-day drive back home. So, but they both drew, him and a buddy, they both drew public land tags. And so they're able to go out there and hunt and fun
That's
stuff.
a heck of a hunt. That pronghorn, that's some long range hunting there.
Oh yeah, no kidding. And that's what is so crazy to watch people like the hunting public on YouTube, where those guys, they stalk them with a bow. That is that's incredible in my opinion. That's unbelievable. Being able to get close enough to shoot it with a bow. That's pretty wild.
I'm not that quiet. I sound like a buffalo coming through the woods. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I'm not getting up on any of those little tiny animals. You're trying to be quiet, and all of a sudden you're getting up there and you always step on something and it's like crunch, and then they're already looking where they got to fill the view that's wide enough to see you. And as soon as you step, you're just like, you think to yourself, well, that really sucked. I've been doing this for 40, 50 minutes and I just stepped on one twig, and everything out there is looking at me now. And I do I move? Do I pull my rifle up? What do I do? And by the time you think that, they're gone. You're just you're like, great.
Yep, exactly.
So everybody's got one of these stories. What do you think your best hunting story is? And what was the game?
So the best hunting story is hands down when I took my wife, we went hunting. She didn't grow up hunting, she didn't really grow up shooting guns, any of that stuff. She kind of, she actually shot a gun, I believe she said, for the first time when I took her. And so it was one of those deals where I kind of opened her up to that world, right, that we live in. And she's not a big fan of going hunting, just because she's not a big fan of being cold.
Right.
But I was able to talk her into it. I was like, hey, let's go. I got you all the clothes and everything and the hot hands and everything you need. And we'll go sit and, hopefully you'll see something, and it'll be quick, right? Hopefully you'll see something come out early and we can get a shot on something and then get back home. And so we had gone maybe 4 or 5 times and just didn't have any luck. And so she was kind of getting a little frustrated about it, which I've gone countless times and haven't seen anything, right? And so it's one of those where I was like, babe, you've literally gone a handful of times, you haven't seen anything. I go multiple times in a season and never see anything, and I've done that for a long time. So we ended up getting lucky. We got on some deer toward the end of the season at some land that my dad and my uncle lease, and so they invited us out, and we went out there, sitting in a shooting house, and we went out that morning, and she took a shot on a deer, and it ended up, the shot placement wasn't great. And so we ended up losing the deer, which was frustrating. She was frustrated about it. She was upset that she didn't make a better shot. But those things happen. She had never taken a shot on an animal before. So it's, understandable. And so then we come out of the woods that morning, go get something to eat for lunch, and get back in the woods to hunt that afternoon. And we're sitting there, and it's about, right there at the last bit of light where you can actually see, last bit of legal light, I hear something. It's about 80, 90 yards away. We're overlooking a green field, about 80 or 90 yards away. It is doe, massive doe. I mean, huge. Looked like a buck. The body of it was so big. Just comes storming into the field and is standing there. And I was sitting there, and I had my 6.5 Grendel, and that's what she was hunting with. And I was sitting there with her, and I was like, oh man. But I said, hey, we're taking the shot. I think that's a buck because it's just so big. The body was huge. And I was like, so go ahead and get on it, right? Get everything ready right behind the front shoulder. It's about 100-yard shot. So you're dead on. Just hold it right behind the front shoulder. You're good. Squeeze the trigger. So we're sitting there, and the deer is just broadside, and we're sitting there, and I'm like, babe, squeeze the trigger. Babe, squeeze the trigger. And I'm also trying to film with my phone, right, while I'm trying to do this. So I'm trying to do all this stuff, and I'm sitting here, and I'm trying to be calm because I don't want to get amped up, right, because that could throw her off.
Right.
I'm like, squeeze the trigger. squeeze the trigger. Like, I don't know how long this deer is going to be broadside. Squeeze the trigger. And she tries, and she goes, the safety's on. And I'm like, oh my God, the safety's on. So I'm sitting here, I'm trying to reach around her because it's an AR platform, right? AR-15 platform.
Oh, okay. You're trying to flip it 90 degrees safety.
Yeah, so I'm trying to flip the safety. And so I'm sitting here and I'm trying to film and I'm trying to flip the safety. And so I flip the safety and I'm like, all right, go shoot. And so sure enough, she squeezes the trigger. I mean, and you could tell, hey, hammered the doe, right? And so hit the doe takes off running. Well, I mean, not 2 seconds later, she hit the doe, she shot again. And I was like, I had no idea. She shot a follow-up shot, even though the deer had run off, right? The deer was gone in the woods. And I was like, what? And she fired again. I'm like, what are you doing? She was like, well, I was just trying to make sure I didn't know I might be able to hit it. And I was like, the thing was long gone. No, you weren't going to hit it. So, but it was just so funny because the follow-up shot caught me off guard. And it was just the video that I have of it. It's hilarious to go back and listen to the recording of that moment. But we end up, we get down there and we, blood trail the deer into the woods. The deer didn't go maybe 50 yards, right? It ran into the woods maybe about 40 or 50 yards and ended up, I mean, it was the biggest doe. I've never killed one bigger than that. It was just a massive doe. She was huge. And so to be able to find that deer, me and her there together with my dad and my uncle, having some family members around too, and being able to go and share that with her and her being able to kill her first deer, that was just the coolest. I've got a bunch of good hunting stories, but that's probably been one of the best ones so far. So
do you have that on YouTube?
Well, I do not because because it's got a little bit of language in it. I didn't because she scared me with that follow up. So yeah, So I didn't, and it's only about a 30-second clip, and I don't even think I'm filming the deer, right? I think I'm trying to, but I'm not even paying attention to the phone because I'm over there fumbling with the safety, trying to get it off, and that way she can shoot. And so I'll have to go back and see if I can find the video, but it was just something that's really cool, being able to experience that with her. And once we found the deer, and then the fun began, right? Because I'm like, everybody's there and we're all like, okay, well, you shot it, you got to drag it. And so she grabs onto the legs, and she's just dragging and trying to, I mean, the deer weighs more than she does. And she's sitting there, and she'll tell you, it's funny to hear her tell the story because she'll swear she pulled it about 100 yards and she might have pulled it 5 feet, But when they're that heavy, it feels like you've dragged that thing a long way.
Yeah.
You ain't gone far at all. So, but it was such a great moment, to be able to share that with her. And it was just so much fun. So.
It sounds like a good time for the both of you and a great story.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, that's one to tell the grandkids about type story. You know.
Yep, you better believe it.
That's pretty awesome. So now you load a lot of different ammunition because you're like me. You load for some friends of yours, and once your friends find out you load ammunition, or actually, this is how it works. And I'll ask you the same question. You load a little ammunition for one of your buddies. He goes to hunting camp. He shoots and kills something really nice and makes a killer shot on it. And then, he's like, well, my friend, he loads this ammo for me. He takes care of me. And the next season, they got like 6 other guys wanting you to load ammunition for them. Yep. They're like, hey, can you maybe work some of that magic on my rifle? And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm going to need the rifle and I'm going to need, so I can work up loads for it. Yep. And it ends up now I'm loading for like a 30-06, a 45-70, 2 308s, a 7mm Mauser and an 8mm Mauser. So I'm like,
yeah, no, that's exactly how it, which is, and I get, and that was the thing, like in the post, if you'll go look at my Instagram, same thing as Alabama Reloader on Instagram, but I have that post. My account's private, so you'll actually have to, ask to follow me, which of course I'll approve it. But, on the post, that's kind of what I mentioned is that's for me, that's probably the most enjoyment that I get out of it is, when someone says, hey, can you work up a load for me? Just like my uncle did back, again, these videos are on my channel, but back last hunting season, my uncle came to me and was like, hey, I've got a Savage Model 99 chambered in 250 3000 Savage, and I can't find any ammunition for it. And I was like, well, that round is about almost 100 years old, and normally you can't find any ammo for it, period, anyway. But on top of COVID, right? Like on top of all of this, you're definitely not going to find any for it.
Exactly.
So,
the one box of that was on the shelves at Midway is long gone.
Oh, long gone. That was it. So he was like, well, could you work up a load for me? And I was just like, I don't even know if I can find the components for that. Luckily I did. And, but worked up a great load for him. He was super appreciative of it. And that's, when I work up loads for people and then they send me pictures like Richard did, hey man, he's standing behind this, monster elk. And he's like, man, that load was awesome. Right. Or work something up for my dad and his 30-06, that Nosler, it's 150 grain Nosler ballistic tip. And he just swears by that load. I mean, he's killed, I think, a few nice bucks with it, and I think maybe a doe or something like that. But he loves the way that round performs. And anytime somebody comes back with feedback like that, that's what I really enjoy about it, is working up a load and then handing the rifle off to somebody, knowing that, hey, trust me, it's not the rifle's fault and it's not the load's fault if you don't kill that animal. I promise you.
Yeah.
Like this, trust me, the amount of testing and effort that went into this, believe me, if it's in range, here's your ballistic chart as well. Here's your ballistic table of every, all your drops and everything to go with it. But trust me, if it's within range of you feeling comfortable to make the shot and you don't make the shot, that's on you at that point, because I promise you the load will perform. So it's just good to get that feedback, sort of that confirmation that, hey, you know what you're doing, right? Like you put together a really good product and somebody had success with it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's one thing when you shoot, you reload for somebody and they come back with a trophy.
Oh yeah.
But it's even better when you reload and the guy comes back with a buck or an elk or a moose or a caribou. You're like, wow. And because the joy that you brought them for that, trip, that's a memory that they'll never forget. They'll have that memory on their deathbed, and they'll always remember that ammunition you loaded for them that took that animal. Because I still, years later, have guys pat me on the back and tell me, thank you very much. My little girl took her first deer with that ammo you loaded for me, or my brother-in-law came down and shot an elk, with that ammo you loaded for me. I really appreciate it. And you brought joy, a family memory for them group of people, even though I don't have kids, I've created some memories for other families, and I think that's neat. And then you get a little bit of that, sometimes a little bit of the food, and that there's nothing wrong with free food, especially fresh game. AR is like a plate of food too. That's a bonus.
No, it is. I mean, that's the thing. Like, Richard, when he went, this is the second elk that he's killed. He went on an elk hunt a couple of years ago, and he took his 30-06 and he was shooting Remington core lot ammo, I think 165 grain, I believe, and killed his first elk with that. And so then he found out that I like to reload, right? And I've got a YouTube channel and all that. And so he's like, hey, well, this go around, he's like, hey, well, would you mind working up a load for it? And that was, to your point, it's so rewarding, right, to work up that load, knowing that, because those hunts are not cheap, right? I mean, that's not that's not something that you take lightly, right? You're not going to go, hey, I think I'm just going to run out to New Mexico next week and go shoot an elk and then have it processed and out there, because that's going to cost an arm and a leg, and then have everything shipped back, and probably going to get it mounted and all that. I mean, that's a very serious task, right, for somebody to put that much faith and confidence in your ability to work up a really good load. So, there was a little bit of, I'm not gonna lie, there was some pressure involved as well, during that load process. because there were certain criteria that I needed to meet, right, from a velocity standpoint and all that, so that I knew without a shadow of a doubt, hey, this load will perform the way that I expect it to perform and the way he expects it to perform, right? Because he's got that expectation of here's these hand loads that this thing had better get the job done. And it, I'm so thankful that it did. And to your point, he was out there, him and his wife went on the trip. Like they went hunting together, and I think from what he was saying in his post, I believe she was the one that was actually calling the elk. So she was calling, he was going to take the shot. And so she calls in a massive bull. He drops it with the ammo that I loaded up, right? It's like you couldn't write a better story, right? A better ending to that hunting trip. And so just to be a part of that, it was very rewarding, but at the same time, extremely stressful. I'd rather try to work up a deer load, you know what I'm saying, than for somebody local that, hey, we're going to go,
yeah,
there's
somebody that's not dropping 17 grand on a trip. You know what I'm saying? When by the time that you get the ticket, you're paying plane fare for both you and your wife, any gear you may need, and then the actual trip itself and all the expense into that. But yet the trip, the time spent bonding, the family memories, that's amazing that you're able to help someone achieve that and be part of it. It's like your own little, I wasn't there, but my ammo was. It was, that's how I look at it, because I haven't been on hunts in many years, but my ammo sure has. And and it has brought down a lot of whitetail and given a lot of laughs and stories around the fire. And to the guys that went and bought the factory ammo, they simply want a hand-loaded ammo the next year. That's how it goes. Simply it is. Yeah, because it makes it easier. It makes it easier when the ammunition does what it's supposed to do.
Well, and that's the thing too. I think, a lot of it, and just for me too, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I like to reload, and develop hunting loads for my rifle and everything, is knowing that when you go into the woods, your confidence level is extremely high in your ability to, wherever you want to place that shot, you can do that within a given range, right, and given conditions and all that fun stuff. But for the most part, in the ranges that I hunt and shoot, in the distances, wherever I want to place that round, that's where that round is going to go, and it's going to get the job done. I know that 100%. So when you know that going in, and you don't have to question, it's like, well, my rifle is on, or at least it was on the last time I went and shot, and this ammo has worked in the past. I'm hoping this other box of factory ammo, I hope it's the same as the one I shot before. I just ran out, so I had to go buy a new box. I'm really hoping this performs the exact same way as the last time. So you don't have to worry about that, right? When you work up a load and you've got it dialed in and you load up enough for your hunting, and it's like, okay, I'm good to go. And you have that confidence. And that really helps when you're in the woods, to your point, and you've got that buck that steps out, right? And it's the buck of a lifetime, and he's at 250 yards, and you're like, hey, I know he's done for, right? Like this, I'm gonna put the shot exactly where it needs to be, and that buck will be going home with me. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, it gives you a feeling of extra confidence when you have hand-loaded ammunition that you have shot and will do the job. It's like all I've got to do is my part on this trigger and put this round into that deer's Boilermaker, and he's going to go down within 30, 40 feet. Yeah. So where have you hunted besides Alabama?
Tennessee. That's it.
Tennessee and Alabama.
Yeah, Tennessee and Alabama. Tennessee was bow hunting only. The area that we were actually hunting, it was a small farm that a lady was allowing us to lease, and it was just me, my dad, my uncle, my cousins, my brother. If we wanted to go, we could. So it was only just a handful of people. But it was bow only. She didn't really want any rifles to be shot up there, and so, which is fine. It's no big deal. So we did a lot of bow hunting up there. Killed several deer with a crossbow, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'd love to. Just like I was telling you, my buddy Daniel, he's out in Wyoming right now. He sent me a picture earlier. The guy he's with actually killed a pronghorn today. So that was pretty cool. Hopefully he'll get a chance to do that tomorrow. But yeah, that would be amazing, right? To go to draw a tag for a public land hunt somewhere like that and go out and try to, drive for a couple days, hunt for a few days, camp in a tent like AR, and then hopefully kill something and then head back to the house. I mean, that would be pretty awesome. I just, we haven't gone through, haven't followed through on that yet, but that's definitely a goal of mine.
So you're down for going out west. Have you ever given any consideration to possibly Alaska?
Oh, I would love to. I would love to go. I'm down to hunt anywhere. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'd love to go hunting anywhere. But yeah, it would anything. Just being able to hunt, right? Being in the woods. That is, it's an amazing feeling just being able to go climb a tree early in the morning before the sun comes up, and then just watch the sunrise. And there's something about it it's very, very peaceful.
Yeah. That's what I would have to say. I think AR will agree with you. When you go out there hunting, a lot of people don't talk about this, but just the outdoor feeling when that first light of day starts coming up and you're up in that tree or you're in that blind and you're just sitting there and the woods start waking up around you and the critters start making noises and the birds start chirping. Yeah. It's one of the most amazing things when you see that orange start peeking through the trees and that early morning, that in that brisk wind on your face. It's almost like a what is it? Who was the author to Call of the Wild? Jack London. Yes, it's like out of a Jack London book. Yep. That's what you feel like you're part of, and you know what? For that few hours, you are in that book. That's what's cool about it. That's what I try to explain to people. When you take your son, you take your daughter, your nephew, your niece, and AR is going to be taking I believe his grandson, or not his grandson, his great grandson, deer hunting as soon as they can get everything together. I don't know are you going to try to do it this year, AR?
Yeah, we're going to do it hopefully in a few weeks. I got to get it scheduled.
So that'll be that ought to be a blast. Mm-hmm. So we're waiting to see. I want to see some pictures from that one.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, to your point, when you're sitting there and you're able to get in the woods before everything wakes up, you put it exactly right with that phrasing. It really is incredible. And you're reminded in that moment of just how awesome God is and his creation and everything. I mean, that's really, part of what's just amazing about being out in the woods and experiencing that. For me, I mean, that's, like I said earlier, I've gone on multiple hunts where I don't even see a squirrel. Right. But every time I'm in the woods, it's the best time. Right. Because it's just being able to go and especially in the morning hunt, for sure, you're able to just see everything wake up, sunrise. It's a reminder of how good God is and how great he is. And like, hey, you'll talk about a master artist, right? Like no one paints a better sunrise than him. So it's just, it's really cool to experience that. And I think that's, to your point, that's part of what a lot of people don't necessarily talk about, or maybe they don't, think about it, but it's amazing to be in it. And that's part of part of what makes a really good hunt, even when you don't see anything. I mean, like I said, been on several hunts where I don't see anything, but man, it was just some of the best time in the woods just because I'm there, and so that's, for me, I know my brother's the same way, my dad, I mean, my uncle, it's just being there. It's a really, really awesome experience, and we just love it. So,
Yeah.
Calms a lot of people, calms them down.
yes, it does.
Very pleasant.
Yep.
Gets rid of that anxiety and stress.
Yes. I've been thinking about trying to get back into it a little bit, but the thing my dad told me, and a couple of the comments you had mentioned about going out and not getting anything, and the story about you and your wife trying to get her first deer, and she was getting kind of bummed out about it. And it reminds me of when I was hunting for the first couple times. My dad told me, he's like, you get out here in the woods, you spend time with your friends at hunting camp, you spend time with God, you spend time with wildlife, you're out here absorbing all of this great creation into your eyes and into your heart and lungs, and it's part of it. And then he told me, and I go, Dad, but I've been out 2 seasons in a row and I haven't even seen a deer. He goes, son, they don't call it gathering, they call it hunting. And I was like, and what was funny is I didn't think it was that funny then, and everybody was laughing at the hunting camp. Right. And I was able, about 5 years before his death, I was able to tell the same story to a young woodsman that was out with his pop, and we were hanging out, and I was giving his dad some ammunition, and he was like, Dad, do you think I'm going to get a deer this year? And then it popped into my head. I was like, oh, I can feel this is coming. And his dad's like, well, we're going to do our best. You just can't go out, and I can't tell you, son, if we're going to come across one or not. That's, the good Lord will bring one to us if he wants to, then it's up to you. And I go, yes, they don't call it gathering. They call it hunting for a reason. And the little kid looked up, and then the dad got a chuckle on his face. And I'm just like, I did what my part was. Here's your ammunition. Good luck.
Exactly. But it's so true. But that's the part, it's so much fun just being out there. Right. And just the process, and even attempting, right, to go into the woods and shoot a deer or whatever animal it is that you're chasing. And it's just one of those things where it's not as easy as social media makes you think it is, right? It's not as easy as YouTube makes you think it is. It's really not. If you actually go out and you hunt public land, especially, I mean, that's, my brother is like public land master. I mean, the dude is super sharp when it comes to hunting public land. He can read a map like nobody's business, a topo map, but it's just, he's become very proficient at it over time. It's taken him a long time to get there, but it's just that process of searching for an animal that does not want to be found. Bottom line, they know you're in their territory. They don't want you in their territory. And so when you're able to get in there and get close within bow range, right, and they have no clue you're even there, that aspect of it is just, it's so neat and really cool, and just adds to the hunt. I mean, you want to go shoot long range. I don't want to get on a soapbox about long range hunting, but you want to go shoot an animal that's 5, 6, 7, 800 yards away. That's one thing, right? Whatever. That's cool that you can pull that off and make that shot. For me, I will probably never do that. I don't necessarily agree with it, but to be able to get in that close to an animal that, has the sensory level that like a whitetail deer does, that can smell just unbelievably, smell everything, see the vision, hear, you name it, but yet you're able to slip in there undetected for the most part, and they have no clue that you're there, and you're able to get a shot on that animal. That's the incredible part of it, and the process. It's just really neat and a lot of fun.
So I got this question. How exactly did you get into reloading?
So that, I blame my brother 100% for this, because I was going through a divorce at the time, and but my brother, he had mentioned he was into reloading, and I can't remember if he had just gotten into it or if he'd been kind of dabbling in it a little bit. But then he mentioned reloading, and I should look into it and all that. And, if I wanted to maybe have better performance over factory ammo, I could make my own and all this. And so I was like, man, I don't even know where to start. You know what? I don't even know. Reloading ammunition, that kind of sounds a little dangerous, right? Like I'm, it's a science experiment at that point. You mean I'm going to make my own ammunition? So it kind of was a little bit foreign to me. That was about 2015. And so I decided to I actually bought a Lee breech lock Challenger kit, right? They're just a cheap Lee single stage press kit off Amazon. At the time, it was like $100. I got it for on sale for $100, and bought that and started just basically figuring it out, and learned that, again, that was a very, I guess, soothing maybe is the right word, but that's something that will really help calm you down, is being able to go in and load up 50, 100 rounds, whatever, go through that reloading process, and just give your mind, give you a place to go. So that way you're not focused on, right, the stuff that's happening in the real world, right? It's a way to escape that. At the time it was, at least. And then it just grew from that into, I realized I really enjoyed it, right? I started reloading, and then quickly got into, hey, I want to make, the best hunting ammunition I can make, right? Because when you start to reload, it kind of opens up a new world for you. You're not just, hey, I got to go buy factory ammo. I just have to buy whatever's available. What bullet construction is that? Okay, well, let me give that a try. See if it shoots good in my rifle. Once you get into reloading, it opens up this world of components that, several different bullet styles you can buy. You can mix and match and do all kinds of great stuff with powder selection, and you can really ramp up a cartridge like a 308 Winchester, where you can really push it, and depending on your powder selection and all this stuff. So it's just neat to kind of get into it and sort of dig into it from that aspect, where you can really start to I guess, tweak loads, tweak different variables, and then you immediately see the impact, right? Or you see the outcome of what you changed. It's either, hey, the groups got better, the groups opened up, or velocity improved, or standard deviation got better, or so. There's instant feedback once you load everything up and you go to the range and you collect all that information. It's just it's neat to go through that process. And so I got started. It seems like forever ago. It was only about 6 years ago, so not too long.
Yeah, I remember watching some of your videos where you were shooting. I think it was your 6.5. Yeah. And you were working loads up that, and I was like, because I've been interested in doing some spear gold dot for 300 black.
Okay, yeah.
And I was seeing what you were getting out of the 6.5 with it, because I haven't shot any spears, but I ordered the reloading book, and I was like, I'm going to order some ammo once I can find it, and for some 308, and give it a whirl. And see how that turns out on a 168 grain bullet or 165, whatever they have, either or.
Right. Yeah. In their gold dot line, they've got a 168 and a 150.
Okay.
For the 308 diameter. But yeah, it's the 6.5. The one that I had, the Savage. It was a Savage 110 tactical, and that is still probably one of the most accurate off the shelf rifles I've ever purchased. It just. Man, it shot. It didn't matter what I put through it. It just shot whatever bullet I tried. It shot it really, really well. I mean, I was using H-40-350, which is basically your gold standard, 6.5 Creedmoor caliber.
Yeah.
and right. So you start with really good components. It was either Starline brass. I was using both Starline brass or Lapua brass. So either one of those, you're going to be pretty good. Lapua a little better, but you pay for it. But you start with good components, and then, you throw in some really good powder, and then, man, that rifle, it was a shooter. I mean, it didn't matter, 120 grain, 129 grain, 140, up to 160s. I mean, it just didn't matter. It shot everything well. So, yeah, that was, I'm a big fan of the 6.5 Creedmoor. So I don't want to overhype it, because then you get labeled as a fanboy, but
Yeah.
but for if you're for the hunting and shooting I like to do, I think it's just about the perfect cartridge for white-tailed deer. I mean, especially when you hand load for it. And your bullet selection, you can just mix and match and come up with amazing combinations to get the job done.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the factory rifles right off the shelf for that cartridge shoot extremely well right off the factory floor, right off the showroom floor. If you buy like a stock 6.5, whereas if you buy a stock 300 Win Mag,
right,
you may have some issues
or
because
308.
or 308.
I've had issues
Or
with
308.
308 too.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't think that with it being around as long as it has. But to your point, I mean, you grab a factory 6.5 Creedmoor just right off the shelf. I mean, they've got them chambered pretty well. You can definitely dial in loads with that 6.5. I've had to put in a lot more work with a 308 Winchester. I've had multiple 308s come through my hands since I started the channel, and it seems like I always have to put in a lot more effort to getting them shooting really well. They'll shoot well, but with the 6.5s that I've had, it just, I don't want to say it's easy, but it kind of is, or at least in my experience, it has been.
I found a load for 308 that works in at least right now 6 rifles that I load for, and 12 rifles. My buddy, he's a rifle builder.
Right.
He was the one that shared the load with me, and it's my favorite powder, Varget. And on a 165 to 168 grain bullet, I'm pushing 43.6 grains. Now you might have to tune it 0.2, 0.3 up once or down once, but for some reason at that load level, you hit a harmonic balancing node in most 20 to 24 inch barreled guns, and it shoots lights out. And I've had 308s that just would not seem to shoot a bullet because their throats were so damn long. And a lot of these factory rifles, they've got draft throats on them. I'm like, the 308s I remember back in the day did not have throats that long on them. The free bore is excessive in today's cartridges, and they just don't do the same. But I found this load from my buddy, and every rifle I've tried it in. So try that. If you have Varget, try a 43.6 grain load and give that a whirl, and try it about 25 thousandths off the rifling.
Okay.
Or you want to go like 2.8,
Right.
Disclaimer,
look at your book.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. You got it.
Mileage may vary on all these. All these stats we're giving you. Go ahead and verify it in your books. And I always tell people, check more than one book, because sometimes they have misprints. And you want to verify it, because me and AR, and I'm sure you found one too, Alabama, you're like, what? That doesn't sound right. Because I know that cartridge is 100% case fill with that bullet at this amount. And this is 10 or 12 grains more. How in the heck am I supposed to get that? Can't be. So you call the company the next day during the daytime. They're like, yeah, that's a misprint. And I'm like, okay. So then you just write in your book that this isn't correct. This is the correct information on it, because sometimes you'll do that. That's why I always tell people, if you're doing a new load for a new gun, a new cartridge, go ahead and check a couple of manuals, a couple of resources, and even check the bottle of powder, because sometimes if you're lucky enough to Hodgdon, they have some information on there for load details.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm a big fan of multiple manuals. I probably have just about every one. Every bullet manufacturer, I've got their manual, except for I think Swift is about the only one I don't have. But Other than that, I've got Nosler, I've got the Lee manual, Berger, Barnes, Hornady, Sierra. I mean, it just having that, and then Lyman, they'll put out sort of a load manual as well. The Lyman manual, it just having multiple sources of data to go and validate against, because you've run into situations where, hey, for this bullet weight, this manual is saying I should be able to load X amount, but I'm already at this amount and I'm pretty compressed, right? Just like what you're saying. So yeah, I mean, you have to because you can't take it as just at face value. I mean, that might work for a certain brand, certain head stamp brass, but if your case capacity is vastly different from one head stamp to the other, you're getting yourself into trouble at that point. So you definitely have to go validate anything we say with multiple sources of information. But at the end of the day, even then, I mean, you really have to just, work up your own, work it up in your rifle. I mean, it's different for every rifle. You could have the exact same copy of rifle next to each other. There might be slight, tolerance issues or differences between the two, right? And then they're not going to shoot exactly the same with the exact same load. So
exactly.
I mean, you have to kind of work through that as well. But
there's going to be that's why I said when you do that load, you're going to be plus or minus a little bit, because every barrel, like if you have a barrel coming off of the factory, off the lathe, the one out of the same bar stock steel that's cut off the same lathe in the very next one on that lathe is going to be different than the one cut right before it and the one cut right after it. So that's why what you're saying is very true. Every barrel is different. It's like fingerprints.
It really is.
Yeah. But I've enjoyed having you on tonight, brother. Is there anything that you want to cover that I may have left out, or?
Well, it's just, so what I find very interesting now, I guess, because I haven't been making YouTube videos very long. It's only been a few years. I think when I put out my first video, it might have been 2018. But it's I don't want to say lack of information, because there's almost an overload of information, right? But you get questions a lot, and I'm sure you do, AR, I'm sure you do as well, from people who they'll see content that's uploaded, maybe that differs from what you're doing. And then they want to know, well, why aren't you doing this? Or, so-and-so posted a video saying that you need to do it this way. Why wouldn't you do it that way? And so that seems to be happening more and more, then specifically talking about like the stuff that Eric Cortina puts out, right? I mean, he's putting out a ton of, go watch all those interviews. I encourage everybody to watch every interview that he's done, watch all of his videos, because it is an absolute wealth of knowledge coming from those guys who are Hall of Fame, F-class shooters, bench rest shooters, guys that have been doing it for a long time, guys that have, basically revolutionized the reloading industry. And, but at the same time, people also need to understand and realize, because they'll tell you up front, I think on one of the interviews, one of his latest interviews might have been with Jack Neary. They'll tell you right up front, hey, if you want to get into that world and you want to shoot groups that are, they were talking in terms of 0.1 inch groups, right? They're talking 0.1s, and anything above, once you start to approach 1/4 inch groups, they were like, yeah, that's when your barrel, that's when you're gonna have a good load, right? You're approaching 1/4 inch groups. I would love to shoot 1/4 inch groups, right? So you have to try to take it, with a grain of salt and really understand, what are you trying to accomplish? That's really, I've had so many people ask me, well, man, I want to get into reloading, but is it going to save me money, or what should I do, or what should I buy? And my first question is always, what is your end goal? What are you trying to accomplish with reloading? Because that's going to tell me where I need to point you, like what direction what path I need to send you down. Because if you're just like me, if you're just a good old boy who does this on the side, you've got a few rifles in the safe and you just want to work up good hunting loads for them, then go get you a Lee breech lock anniversary kit, breech lock challenger reloading kit. Trust me, that'll get you good enough, right? However, if you want to go shoot PRS and you want to be competitive, or you want to go shoot bench rest, well, guess what? You better go spend a lot of money on a custom rig. Just right off the bat, you might as well do that, and that's what they say in those videos. If you even think you're going to go down this road, you just need to go and copy what everybody else is doing. If everybody else is shooting a 284 Winchester and everybody goes to the same gunsmith and everybody uses the same reamer and everybody, go do what everybody else is doing that's already winning. Don't try to load yourself into the winner's circle. Make sure you go buy the best of the best that you can. If that's the road you want to go down, start there first, then start your loading process, because the loading process, in my opinion, is going to be not super difficult right at that point. If you're going and having the custom rig built, you've got your barrel, you've got your action, you're throwing a Smith and Bender or a Night Force or whatever you want to for your optics, right? You're spending as much money on the optic as I've ever spent on a vehicle. When you're doing that, right? That's really, and that was their advice in the interview. You go and read, watch it, and that's what they're going to tell you is, hey, to be competitive, if you want to win, well, that's what you're up against. So you better pay to play. And so if you want to dabble in it a little bit, it can get pretty expensive to dabble in it. Go watch his interviews with F-Class John. That was pretty good content right there. If you want to see what dabbling in competitive shooting can cost you, go watch those interviews, because it was some good stuff. I mean, that just kind of sheds light on that side of it, if you want to go that route.
Yeah, and what I agree with what you're saying. If this is the thing that I tell people when they come, they talk to me or ask me questions. They say, "Hey, David or Elliot or whoever they're wanting to talk to," they'll say, "Hey, I want to be able to shoot 1/2-inch groups." And I'm like, "Okay, you want to shoot 1/2-inch groups, and you have a old Winchester Model 70 308 Winchester. Okay, that gun was handed down to you by your grandfather. Do we know how many rounds have been down the barrel?"
Exactly.
Because you might go through $1,000 worth of bullets, powder, and primers. And nowadays that doesn't take too much because of the prices. And come to find out at the end of it, you needed a new barrel the whole time.
Exactly.
And you know what I'm saying? And that's why a lot of the times what you're saying is exactly right. If you're going to get into something, you have to look at the classification of people you're going to be partying with. If you're going to be a novice shooter and in an opening class where they're going to be shooting off the shelf rifles, then that would be a good place for you to start and learn to, but as you progress,
right,
you buy more equipment, more expensive equipment, you shoot in the higher classes, and you have to pay to play. And if you doubt that, these guys, if their rounds get wet with condensation, they won't feed in their chambers. That's how tight these chambers are. Yeah. So that's just an idea to give you guys. And that's why they keep their ammunition at the same temperature as their rifle. And they try to use powders that aren't affected by temperature, so that they don't have to keep their bullets in their pocket, keep them warm. Like when we used to go hunting, we used to always carry our ammunition inside of our hunting jacket. It'd give us a little bit more power when we were using ball powders.
A lot of temperature, I guess, sensitivity when it comes to ball powder versus extruded. So yeah.
Yep. But that's very good points about talking about accuracy like that. Because you can't. It's like you can only go so far with what you got, and before you have to, go ahead and buy something a little higher end, or maybe think about having a custom action and custom barreled action put together and then dropped into a chassis system and whatever, if that's the direction you're going.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. It's just a lot of times people have no clue what direction they even want to go, if they even want to get into the competitive side of things. And so that's where, if you just go to, if there's a local match or something like that, you just start to do a little research and go to a match and see if it's something that you would even be interested in, right? And that's the thing. That's what's really great about where I shoot. I'm a member of a local range, Hobbs Island Shooting Range. It's just down the road from where I live, and it's a great range. It's members only and all that. So you got to pay a monthly fee, but it goes out to 380 yards, and it's a great place. They host some local matches there, and so you go there, kind of get a feel for it, see how things are done, see how they run the match, see if it's something you'd be interested in, and then you can kind of put two and two together, and then if all your, at least locally, if you need any reloading components, you go, I talk about them all the time, Mr. Big Guns in Huntsville. It's a store locally in our area. And I mean, Matt, the guy that owns it, he's a good buddy of mine, but he's done a great job of listening to the local shooting community. And because when I first went in there a few years ago, his store has transitioned so much over that time period, because he doesn't just buy, whatever he can find and throw it on the shelf. And if you buy it, or it'll sit there and collect dust. No, he's actively, talking to guys that are participating in competitions, guys that are reloaders like myself. And he's going, hey, what are things that you would like to see come into the store? What's something that you would want that maybe you can't get anywhere else? I mean, you can order it online. But what is something that would, kind of help grow either the reloading community locally or the people that want to compete? What are the products I need to get in the store that will actually help you, right? So that's one of the things that I really like about him, and the way he drives that store is he's very open to, he doesn't just want to buy a bunch of firearms, get them in there, have stuff sit, a bunch of stuff that nobody really wants or needs. He's really listening to the people locally on, okay, here's what we want, and whether it be 22 long rifle, competitive stuff, right? People getting into that now, right? So it's like, hey, we want high-end 22 rifles. That's the type of stuff we want. Okay, get those in. Or I want high-end reloading equipment like RCBS Matchmaster, powder dispenser. Got a couple of those on the shelves. I want a lab radar. Get some of those on the shelves, right? So it's products that you actually want and need. If you're looking to advance to that next level or whatever, that's what's really neat about that store. So that's why, if you watch a lot of my videos, you'll hear me talk about them all the time. But that's really the big reason why. So
yeah,
sounds like a good store.
Yeah,
no,
sounds like
is.
Yeah, it sounds like a heck of a store. And I would like to see like I'm going to start doing some reviews, going into gun shops that are willing to talk to me, and I like the small mom and pop type gun shops, because 30 years ago, when you wanted to know what was going on in shooting industry, you would open an American Rifleman, and you would go down to your local gun shop, and you would talk to the older fellas there, and they would tell you what's going on in the shooting world. And
guns and ammo.
Yes.
And magazines.
Yes. But the older gentlemen in the gun shops, it was like your local pub almost, because it was a gathering center where people would gather, they would shoot, they would talk, tell stories about hunting, loading, hand loading, and share information. So it's really good. These small mom and pop shops, they want to cater to their customers. They're not these big box stores that throw stuff on the shelf because they got a good deal on buying 16 pallets of it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yep. No, I agree. That's what.
Yeah.
It's nice to go, especially to run down there and see Matt and all the guys that work at the store. But they've got a coffee maker in there.
Yeah.
So you go in there and you get a cup of coffee. I mean, it's free, but you go in there and get a cup of coffee because that's the thing. Like, they want you to come in with your questions. If you have, hey, what are you looking for? They genuinely do want to help you out. Just get in there and talk to them, especially if you're interested too, like in, hey, I want to build an AR. Okay. Well, they've got guys on staff that specialize in that. It's like, okay, what are you trying? Again, back to kind of like when people ask you about reloading. Well, what are you trying to do with it? What type of rifle do you have in mind? What's the end result going to be? And so it's just really neat to see how he's managed that store over the past few years and how it's progressed. And so, it's a great place, especially if you're local. I mean, they have an online presence as well. You can order from them online, but if you're ever coming through this area, they've got the best powder selection, best reloading selection. We've got a Cabela's here. We've got Academy Sports. We've got, different sporting goods stores, but in terms of catering to the reloader, that type of thing, it's the best place to go for sure.
They got powder now, Alabama.
I haven't been in there in about a week or so, but they did have powder on the shelves the last time I was in there. And I believe it's funny that you echo that you mentioned doing reviews and stuff, because I sent Matt a text the other day and I was like, hey, I'm going to be doing an interview. It's the first time I've ever been asked to do this. I thought it was really cool. And I've enjoyed doing it. And I was like, man, I talk about your store all the time. Why don't I do an interview with you? Come into the store, kind of show everybody, here's the place I always talk about. Here's the actual store. Here's what they have on the shelf on this date, whatever time. And then just sit down and kind of do a quick interview with him. To your point, I think it'd be pretty neat to highlight local, to your like mom and pop stores, gun stores, just like Midway Pistol and Pawn in Gurley, Alabama. That's another place I like to go. Same kind of deal. It's they don't carry reloading supplies, but in terms of firearms, optics, ammunition, it's another great source, and they actually treat you like they care about your business, right?
Yeah.
That's the difference. When you find a store like that where they genuinely enjoy seeing you walk through the door instead of, oh man, now I got to deal with somebody else. That you don't really want to go to those places. But when you come in,
go spend your money, vote with your wallet.
Yeah.
If you find a good store that takes care of you and every once in a while may give you a little deal or call you up and say, hey, we got this powder in or these primers in, you want me to set you 1,000 aside? Those kind of places are the places we need to support as a community of gun owners and Second Amendment supporters. And if you own a gun, you have supported the Second Amendment. In my opinion, this is my opinion, but by purchasing a firearm, you have supported the Second Amendment, because more guns that are in law-abiding citizens' hands, the harder it is for them to take them away from us.
Right.
So
we're winding up on the 9:32 p.m.
Yes, sir. That's what I was cutting over to UAR right now. I really appreciate you, Alabama, for coming on tonight. And I want to see that review of your. I'd like to see some reviews of some shops, the fella's shop. And now, does he do online sell? You said as well.
Yeah, they do online sales as well. It's MrBigGuns.com, I believe. I actually haven't gone on their website in a long time. I always just drive down because I like to go get a cup of coffee and hang out with them.
I tell you what, after the show, send me an email with his link to his website, and I'll put it in this interview's description box so that if anybody comes back and watches this video, they'll be able to go right to his website for his store, and they'll help and support another local mom and pop shop in the Alabama area.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, they're just he's such a good friend of mine, and just super supportive in the community as well, as far as donating for sponsorships for high schools or different things like that, athletic events and those type of things, and just community outreach in regards to the shooting sports, right? So that's another reason too that I really enjoy supporting his store and what he's all about. I mean, he's just couldn't pick a better guy to support. So really enjoy his shop and what he's doing.
Yeah,
Great live stream,
really good.
everyone.
Yeah, it was a great live stream. I loved having you on, Alabama. You were a wonderful guest. AR, why don't you go ahead and take us out of here, brother?
Now let's call the chat out. At least acknowledge
Well,
them,
that's
and then
what
we'll
I'm.
take it
That's
out.
what I'm saying.
Okay. Michael Hurtnick's here. Good to see you. G23 KM. Good to see you. I've never seen. I don't know if I've seen KM. Have a Echo? Or is that someone you know? Alabama Reloader.
Yeah, I believe that's someone that is a subscriber. I'm almost positive. I've my phone. I'm sitting here and I was trying not to look at my phone, but I was getting getting text messages and all kind of stuff. So
Jason Stewart, Critter, Jab JK1.
Oh yeah,
79 Z28.
Yep,
MCK, Jason Stewart, Jake Hembry.
Yep.
Jab again. I didn't call that one. Let's see. MCK, KM. Vanessa Kitty, CW Long Shot. Glad you're here.
Oh yeah, CW. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, and so my buddy, I don't know if you guys can see that. Oh man, it's not going to come through, is it? It's not going to focus. But
I love it.
It's not. Yeah,
I can blow you up.
Kind of hard to see. Yeah,
it's not going to focus. But my buddy just sent me a picture. He was able to get him a pronghorn on the ground.
Oh,
so he,
wow.
yeah,
Awesome.
Yeah.
He's got one on the ground.
Congratulations.
Awesome. Yeah, tell him congratulations from everyone on Echo's Reloading Chamber.
Yep. Oh, will do. Yeah, he said tagged out before the snowstorm came in and ruined the next 2 days. So it looks like they both got pretty lucky and was able to tag out today before the snow come in. So
awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Michael Hurtnick. Going down here. Hang on, guys. I'll get to you in a minute. A lot of people dropped in tonight saying hello. G23, Lead Bullet Junkie, Chico Wise was here with us. Good to have you, Woodman. Eagle Eye Shooting. Good to see you, Eagle Eye. Jake. Senior Master Sergeant Bulldog. Good to see you. 67 Rebel. Good to see you. Who else here we got, guys? We have to scroll a lot sometimes, guys. BC. B.C. Good to see you, BC. That's somebody new probably with Alabama Reloader. Good to see these new people.
Yes, sir. It's always great to see new people. That's another big thing me and AR are trying to do, reach out across all the channels and get gun community bonding together, getting your viewers over to watch us, our viewers over to watch you, so that we can keep growing our community bigger and bigger and stronger.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Jerry Parker, he's here. Good to see you. And Tim S. just dropped in again. Appreciate great stream, guys. Appreciate everyone that dropped by. Appreciate the guests. Thanks for coming on Alabama Reloader.
Oh, it was. I had a blast. I'm a little long winded too. That's what some of my videos. I'm like, man, I gotta just stop because I'm rambling. Trust me. You can ask my wife. I like to talk. I'll talk to you all day. So yeah, especially when it comes to reloading. I mean, it's something I really enjoy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have you on again because I enjoyed talking with you, and the guest enjoyed having you on, listening to you and stuff. And I think it's very important for all of us to start spending a little bit more time promoting each other's channels, that we can get bigger audiences and we can touch more people's lives and teach more people different things about reloading, guns, and just the Second Amendment in general.
Hello to MacMan. Sorry, MacMan Reloading.
MacMan, thanks for coming by, brother. Critter, everybody for coming by. We really appreciate it. Me and AR and Alabama appreciate y'all coming by and watching the little stream tonight. And on that, we are going to go, ladies and gentlemen. So without anything else, did you guys like to say goodbye?
Not all.
Yeah,
great meeting you, Alabama Reloader.
Yeah, it was nice meeting y'all. We'll catch y'all next time. Y'all all have a good one.
Take care, everybody.
See you all.